Hello, I'm Amelia.
I'm Jay.
And this is Raising Barbarians, a podcast on being human. And
Today, we will talk about conflict resolution.
mm-hmm, particularly for our little barbarians.
Our little barbarians, we have 4. We have a 6-month-old.
Correct.
And a 5-year-old and just that on the 3-year-old,
mm-hmm.
And then the oldest are 7-year-old.
That's right. And so I would say to start off with, one of the most important things that you can do to build your children's conflict resolution skills is to stay out of it.
Yeah, try to stay out of it as much as we can. Our oldest son is needing to learn that lesson because he's getting involved with our second oldest son and our third oldest son.
And our second youngest.
Or
the middles. The two middles.
The 2 middle children, when they get a conflict, the oldest likes to just immediately, whatever the situation, just take the 3-year-old side over the 5-year-old side.
Yeah.
We told him he should stay out of it.
And so what he's often missing in those situations, and what we're often missing as parents, is enough information to resolve the conflict in any way that would be fair or ideal. I don't think the number one issue. The number one issue is that for the most part your kids just need to learn how to resolve conflict, and like anything else, you get better at doing something by doing it. And so your kids just need to practice doing that. And quite young kids, conflict resolution skills is often hitting, yelling, taking, and that's appropriate for their age. There's a lot of modeling you can do with that and talking them through things, but then at a certain point they need to be pushing things for themselves. You get to a point where they have enough skills and enough ideas about how to do it that you shouldn't really be taking the reins on the situation too often. I think our 5-year-old and our 7-year-old can handle a decent amount of disputes themselves. We will sometimes, though not always, step in when it gets physical.
Yep. Sometimes we step in to stop a dangerous fight or something we are worried could be dangerous.
If our 2 middles are fighting, we don't tend to have to step in too much because their personalities allow for things to kind of play out the way that they need to, and things will kind of settle down by themselves if our oldest is involved. So part of helping with conflict resolution skills as a parent is looking at the different personalities that your children have, just like any other part of parenting, and seeing where support is needed, where you need to help them put the brakes on. And some kids do need help putting the brakes on their anger and aggression.
Even with our 5-year-old, sometimes he's quick to scratch for the face or something. I have to be don't do that.
Yeah.
If you need him to stop, you could slap. You don't have to scratch his face if you're gonna be hitting, and obviously using words is even better.
A lot of if you can get kids to talk about the issue that they're having, that's great. A lot of conflicts that adults will want to step in to resolve aren't actually conflicts that matter or need resolving, that people will just kind of stop caring about. And in regards to that, one of the ways that we have reduced the amount of conflicts that we have in our house from an elder to a younger brother is by telling them to just wait, because a lot of conflicts can happen over, you know, wanting the thing the other person has. And for the most part, if your 5-year-old and 3-year-old has something you want, if you just don't make a big deal of it and walk away, they will just put that thing down and you can have it.
Yeah, the other day our 5-year-old was done with it, but he like hit it. And we're like, no, go get it. And he's like, I'm done with it. And he's got to go find it.
Yeah.
We said no, give it, but we don't make them take turns. We let them use something as long as they want. There's certain rules. Like sometimes you go to the bathroom, you can come back to something, but you can't. I don't know. What are your rules with coming back and being like, that's mine?
It just depends on, like, yeah, if you have to go to the bathroom, you can't take it. And the other thing is that if I call you away and make you do something, other people aren't allowed to have it, or can only have it for the amount of time that you're gone. But if you walk away and go and start to play with something else, even if it's just for 3 or 4 minutes, you've now lost that thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, overall, there's like one of the best offense is a good defense, right? If you have a good set of rules structured in your house, conflicts should be somewhat minimized.
Yeah, we don't. Sometimes from a young age, you would get all the kids something, like if one kid's getting a workbook, even the kid who doesn't need a workbook gets a workbook too, but we don't always do stuff like that.
No.
Sometimes we do stuff like that.
Yeah. And in fact, I would argue overall that doing something like that, making it so that everything is supposed to be fair, is detrimental to your child's ability to resolve conflicts and deal with unfairness in the long run.
There's a lot of times we don't do where everyone, right now the 2 older boys might be the only ones who get a belt. They were the only ones who got medals the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things where they only got, those are big deal things. There's a lot of times where they just get something and as our youngest, our 6-month-old will cause conflicts that the kids have to learn how to navigate around, like the hair pulling or the knocking their stuff over, and then like he can't help it, but he himself obviously doesn't yet have to navigate. He's pretty good though he's pretty forgiving, and just his inner personality seems like he'll be able to handle conflict good.
I agree.
But yeah, our older children, our 3, 5, and 7-year-old are all doing good. There's not a lot of conflict between the boys.
No, I mean realistically, like I think that we deal with conflict several times a day, but it doesn't take up that much of the day. Conflicts rise and fall pretty quickly. I would say another important thing outside of having some basic rules, I can think of a couple of things again to just reduce general conflict. I do have a few things written down about what we do with those conflicts, but like having rules that are relatively uniformly enforced about how those things are done. I've read a lot of people say that reducing screen time generally reduces conflicts in the house.
Yeah, we're careful about them having screen time when they do get to watch stuff. We're careful about what they get to watch.
And that's the thing. I've read one person in particular said, actually, we didn't reduce our screen time, we just stopped watching the Disney Channel. And
yeah, stuff like that's kind of sarcastic or mean, I'd rather it's not. If I can find stuff like that, I don't really want the kids watching mean or sarcastic things. Or obviously I don't want them watching adult content or mature content.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do watch mature content, I don't want them to watch like something that's mean, like, they certain words I don't want being used. I tell them to be kind to each other, and I tell the older kids to look out for the younger kids, and the younger kids look out for the older kids, so everyone should kind of help each other out, be helpful, and sometimes if the kids really can't control themselves, we ask them to go in the room for a while and calm down. Very short time.
Yeah.
Might feel long to them, but probably only a few minutes.
Yeah, I don't think any of them have ever been in the room for more than 5 minutes. Watching out for each other, what came to mind with the turn taking and everything too is generally making sure that your child is aware that they are not the center of the world. Which, you know, just generally like coddling behavior, like, oh, we always have time for you, and no matter what else is going on in the world, everything stops and revolves around how you feel about things, I would say is very detrimental to their ability to manage and resolve conflicts and not take things very personally. You know, teaching the kids, hey, this person is tired right now, that's why they're kind of being a jerk. Or can we think about this person's motivations for why they're doing what they're doing before they're responding? Not that 5 and 7-year-olds are always great at this, but this is a skill set that you can be building starting from, you know, 2 or 3 years old and moving forward.
You know, try to teach them to talk polite with their tone and to each other. I noticed some of our oldest son, I think he's been a little bit like rude in tone and things he said, disrespectful a little bit. And sometimes that can go down the line to the other kids, so you're trying to teach them to say like, yes dad, yes mom, instead of something like what, or what is it? Say yes mom, so teaching them manners, which will help stop conflict, and teaching them empathy, like, hey, think about it from that person's perspective, compassion, patience, kindness, and they're learning martial arts, which teaches them to let people tap out. I don't know if that helps with conflict resolution, maybe.
Well, in regards,
That's rather new, but that's been going on for about a year. They've been learning that.
yeah, in regards to that, like, again, a lot of conflict resolution, just stopping it is, you know, demonstrating your own self-control so that things don't get escalated to a conflict level. So one thing that you might hear in a lot of parenting podcasts about how to manage conflict is, you know, show good conflict resolution skills as parents, but the way that our relationship works, and you're welcome to say if you think it's differently, we actually don't run into a lot of conflict, and that's due to a variety of factors. But the kids aren't getting that much conflict resolution skills from watching me and you.
Well, maybe they are, because I'm good at not having conflict.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So that's a good skill. They can see that there's no conflict at the house. And that does seem to trickle down when there's a house with conflict. You can see that in the kids.
Yeah.
And
So,
the kids know.
yeah, so I don't know that this thing where like modeling good conflict resolution skills for your kids is really true, because I don't know how often I don't know that your kids should be seeing or involved in conflicts a tremendous amount, or that you should be having a tremendous, I mean, we have conflicts, but it's like, there's not, you know, these arguments, none of us are running after each other wanting to punch each other or anything like that, like they have, right? We don't have anything similar to what they're experiencing.
We're not like little kids.
There are adults like that.
Sure, yeah.
And not a small amount.
But we've been teaching them Christian values from the Bible, and how do you think that's affected their conflict resolution?
I wouldn't say that either through where we've read straight through the Bible or any of our Bible studies, we did a Bible study called How to Be a Servant.
Okay.
And so that did talk about, you know, focusing on being a blessing to other people as opposed to figuring out what you can get for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
whether or not I felt that those things are shining through, particularly in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
I don't see that at this point.
Mhm.
But I do think overall surrounding them with, right, like I would say, if Christian values wise, like I would say they've probably gotten more from like Narnia about how to treat people who are doing the wrong things than they have from the Bible at this point.
Mhm. Narnia comes from the Bible, and
Well,
that's one of the
it's
reason we're reading it.
Christians, yeah.
How much do you think, because we get to pick who they hang out with, that helps with their conflict resolution, because we pick their peer groups, when we're doing martial arts, it's other homeschoolers, or when we hang out with people, it's for the most part homeschoolers. That might be helping and that means they have a lot of adults around them as opposed to large amount of kids. So how do you think
Who
that
are
helps?
figuring out, I think not being in situations where you're constantly worrying about pecking order is important for reducing conflicts. The
Yeah.
lower stakes you can make coming to an agreement, the better. You want coming to an agreement to be the most profitable thing you can do, and if coming to an agreement comes at a social cost, then that is, that's gonna make it harder to figure out where you guys agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think that those are the main things that come to mind regarding conflict reduction in the household. I felt like there was one more, but I can't think of it, so I'm just gonna move on. So then, as far as what we actually do as parents, yes, one, stay out of it to the extent that you can. If it hasn't elevated to a physical issue. Another thing that is an important part of what I try to do is that I do not care who started it. It's very important to recognize not only that there's a huge incentive to lie in a situation where there's a conflict, but also that you're not just lying to the people you're talking to. You would never hit somebody for no reason. You always had a reason. Your reason was always a good reason. They did something to provoke you. It's totally fair what you did. But the other person, when they hit you, you basically did nothing, and it really shouldn't have been an issue, and they freaked out, right? That's the way everybody feels about basically all conflicts all the time. So there's very little value in caring about who did what first, or even knowing what happened at all. I don't really care what happened in a conflict between the boys. I care about how we're going to stop having a conflict now. And sometimes if I have to get involved, I will have to say how we're gonna resolve the conflict or how this is gonna end. And a lot of times that is just me yelling, stop right now, no more. Because it's gotten to the point where everybody's gotten physical and I just want it to be over. And then they'll try to talk to me and tell me what happened, and I say I really don't care. You're really supposed to just be kind to each other. Were you being kind? Were you being kind? Okay, then everybody was doing the wrong thing and you need to stop. And for Zeddy, because he's little and he's sweet, when he starts altercations with his brothers, which he does often, I call him to calm down enough that he wants to hug his brothers. That's the particular way we deal with his personality and his age.
Yeah, they're very patient with him.
Yeah. They can get upset because he will hit them again and again and again, and eventually they will strike back. And that's us, we reference.
Xander's been doing it too.
He's done it a handful of times ever,
Xander seems to really take it like it's funny to him if he gets hit by it. I don't think he likes it, but
Zephyr did up until I would say 6 months ago. He would kind of just let Zeddy do whatever and it wasn't an issue.
yeah.
But then
It's a little more
Zeddy's
threatening.
older, stronger, and he talks in full.
He hurt him pretty bad. He threw a block right into his face and it made him like a black eye.
Yeah.
So he's gotta be careful.
Yeah, and the other thing is he talks in whole sentences. The idea that he's like this little helpless baby doesn't really like, Zephyr
not.
can't feel that way about him anymore.
He's not.
Yeah, because he's not. So, um,
And it's good that he's not being treated like a. He says he knows he's not a baby.
yeah, he knows he's not a baby. So the conflict resolution with Zeddy's the most interesting, just because he,
Our 3-year-old.
our 3-year-old, because the two older ones were like a pair, and they had conflicts, and it was something to resolve. Whereas for a long time, Zeddy, with the two of them, was able to get away with whatever he wanted because they just thought he was like cute and small, and they didn't care or do anything about it. But now they're all starting to have to learn how to resolve conflicts with him as well. And we have this issue with our eldest stepping in, and we're trying to convince him that.
How long's that been going on? A couple weeks or a while, I guess.
A couple months probably. I mean, ever since whenever Zephyr, our 5-year-old started getting upset with our
Yeah.
3-year-old, and then the 7-year-old would start to get upset that he would do anything back to the 3-year-old, because that wasn't the deal before.
Yeah.
And oh, so our 7-year-old tries to step in, and we're trying to tell him, actually, you stepping in, you are robbing Zeddy and Zephyr of the chance to practice what it is that they need to practice.
Yeah, things usually get sorted out nicely if they just get to do that, but if Xander gets involved, it turns into a big problem of two people on both attacking Zephyr, which no one likes to see.
And then both of them attack the one in the middle, which is not, obviously not fair. We actually have to, Xander, you step back. Go ahead, Zephyr. Fight with Zeddy if that's how you guys want to get it out. We can't have a bigger person coming along and not
Teaming up.
helping them learn how to do things. And I think with all of those things, I think the last real point that I want to make is that you don't need to punish people for having conflicts. It's going to happen. It's totally okay. And
Yeah, we don't really punish. We believe in consequences. Some of those consequences are pretty much punishments, but they're not. We don't punish for the sake of punishing.
yeah, I mean, I would say there's a point in time where I would have said, oh, consequences, but now I will say a lot of these things I'm using specifically to discourage the boys from
There's
behaviors.
deterrence. There's deterrence that, like, you might raise your voice and yell at them. Might be one deterrent.
Sure, they don't. I'll especially raise my voice to yell at them. Like if they're fighting, that would be a big time to do it because you have to get their attention. But I would also say like having them do the exercises or having them do
even
chores.
having them do exercises or chores,
Yeah.
or get not be allowed to go somewhere they want to go or do something they want to do.
But for the most part, we don't punish conflict, and we don't necessarily punish hitting either. Usually what the punishment comes from is not listening when I've told you to stop. When I've told you to stop and giving you space. And so, again, yeah, to the extent that you can, just back up. And I don't feel like there's anything like this whole like like in the conflict resolution space for children, there's going to be a lot of things about like teaching feeling words and like having these sorts of conversations. I don't think that's necessary.
We're not big on like having too much talk it out stuff. Our oldest would probably really not like to like just talk about his emotions, and we consider that stuff kind of not necessarily the best.
Yeah.
He might be more of a new thinking that I don't necessarily agree with, to always talk about everything. But yeah, cast of 4 boys, and they all get along very well.
The only time that feelings talk would maybe come in is if I am explaining like we said at the beginning, like he did that because of this. It has nothing to do with what you think it was. Because sometimes they'll think somebody was ignoring them when really they couldn't hear them because they were in another room. Things like this can cause tension sometimes, and just being like, hey, that's not what was happening. Your idea of what was happening in reality is not the reality of the situation. So the more that you can get people to see, and I mean, you know, we can put that under the term empathy or whatever, but really what we're just dealing with is, can you see the reality of the situation and deal with it as it is with the information you have without imparting your ideas of how somebody else feels about something on it.
Any final thoughts?
I think I'm feeling pretty good about that all. How
Alright,
about you?
subscribe, like, comment,
If there's
share.
anything you want a podcast on, please comment and let us know how you deal with conflict resolutions
Yeah.
as well.
Thank you.